So today I am going in to make a deposit. A little bit of money we got to drop into the bank. What's crazy about this check is this thing's been sitting in I've had to deposit this check. That shows you that we're at a whole nother season when you could be sitting on a $44,000 check and not have the pressure to go put it in the bank. Alright, so how did I get here? That's a great question. This was definitely not a part of the plan. Well, everybody, good morning. We're on our way to close on our first real estate investment property. An entrepreneur is simply someone who recognizes an opportunity and goes after it. My zone of genius really is in the realm of turning nothing into something. And that's what has been this last 10 years of us building Married and Young, or more now, Married and Young is now turned into Miller Media Group, and going from, being a completely no-name, non-expert, non-business person into now an 8-figure media company CEO with 20 plus staff, millions of dollars in revenue, real estate properties, and all before I was 30 years old. Man, 9 years ago I moved to Chicago, and I was chasing the call of God upon my life, being obedient to what I believe at the time the purpose of my life was, which was to be in full-time ministry. I had just graduated Bible college, went to Bible college in Dallas, Texas, and that's where I really kind of matured in the call of my life to serve people. Take the context of where you would do it out, and the focus was I just knew that I was called to serve people. And that kind of dates back to when I first really got serious about God. This was probably like my senior year of high school. I immediately, as soon as I got serious with God, I just got this burden for people. I can't explain it. Immediately I started thinking about how I could impact my high school, and being a good friend, Aaron Balsamo, we started a Bible study in high school. We're just teenagers, weren't trained, just passionate. And we started a Bible study in high school. We got to a point to where we were doing, we had 3 lunch periods. We had Bible studies scheduled for every lunch period, and we were overseeing this entire operation. Our junior and senior year of high school got to the point to where there was, approximately 70, 80 kids spread between the 3 lunch periods coming upstairs to a classroom to learn more about God. And that's when I knew that I was like, I want to spend the rest of my life helping people, serving people, changing people's lives. I was addicted, to it. And so, that was the beginning. I didn't know the context that I would do it in at the time, being, 17, 18-year-old kid. I thought it would just be me doing it in the church, because I was like, okay, where do you change people's life? You change people's life in the church. Where do you help people find God? You do it in the church. And that's where I was most passionate, and so that put me on this journey. That was in high school. So I go to Bible college to learn how to be a pastor, graduate Bible college. And I, at the time, one of the dominant voices in my life and leaders in my life, which still to this day is Dr. Matthew Stevenson. And he was one of the first people to take a chance on me and to give me an opportunity and to give me a place to truly express and discover more about my call. And so I moved to Chicago. This is now, a decade ago. Single man. I think I was around maybe 21, 22 years old. Never lived anywhere, in the north. Had no friends, no family. I remember the first YouTube video I did, which will probably show a little something of that, just to kind of give you guys a little rewind. And in that YouTube video, I talked about, being like Abraham and going to a city and a people that you know not of, and establishing, your ground there. And so I had no more insight than just simply go to Chicago, serve all nations, and discover more about who I am called to be. That was it. So I was a youth pastor, and then serving faithfully. Loved my role that I was playing, and All Nations at the time was maybe 400 or 500 people, probably less than that, honestly. Still very much a new church, or newer church. And so during that season of my life, it was simply one word: faithfulness. I just want to be faithful. I just want to be faithful, and I know that God will unveil what He has for me in my future as I'm being faithful. That was the goal. So I meet Natasha, being a single man. We meet on Facebook. If you don't know that story, you can go check out Facebook Love Story on YouTube. And that will give you more insight into our story. She was a complete stranger. We met on Facebook, and we then get married. And one of the things that at this point in my life, I was very, very passionate about was relationships, and the question now becomes like, now that I'm in this season of my life, it becomes like, was I passionate about relationships because I wasn't in a relationship, and that's why I was so focused on learning more about relationships? But I really do believe that God gave me a very deep burden for family, and to restore the family, to restore the family. But at this time in my life, that was a big portion of my study, was family, was marriage, relationships. And people would, just something that I love to talk about a lot. So when I met Natasha and we met the way we met, it was just kind of like completely natural for us to share our story. So we go on YouTube, create a, call it Facebook Love Story, share our story. And at that time, Natasha moves to Chicago once we got married, and moves to Chicago. And, she is, a person that is still honestly discovering who she is. I am in this journey of becoming a, full-time pastor and in full-time ministry. And, we're making, a very, very, basic income. I mean, this is my first time paying rent by myself. Before this, I always had roommates, and I just was a kind of a just a single guy. So once I got married, I felt the pressure of the financial piece of my life just kind of really get more intense, because before it was just taking care of me, versus now I'm taking care of another person. And so that kind of really put a little thing in me, like, so then, but I wasn't worried. It wasn't like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out here and figure out, like, I was, making, working 2 jobs at the church, and I was working at a nonprofit, here in Chicago. And so once once we got married, somebody posted on our YouTube channel, "Hey, are you guys still married? What's going on?" And that's when Natasha and I, got the idea to start a blog. I had a blog before that I was running, and that blog was doing, nothing at all. It was just a blog for me to really just talk about stuff, But this time it felt different. I was like, man, we really should start this blog to really help people to figure out how to do relationships the right way. Number 2, people just need to be inspired that millennials are still getting married, right? So that was kind of like the gist of the blog. So we got the name. I remember us being in the grocery store, and I'm like, what can we call it? At the time, Hillsong Young and Free was like just out here doing their thing. It was like, they just came out with a brand new song. It was super dope, and I was like, we should call it Married and Young. And so she liked it, I liked it, and and that was like the beginning of this Married and Young brand. Had no idea, y'all, when I tell you this thing was not intended to be a business, did not have any type of desire or motivation to make money from it, did not expect this thing to completely become a big part of my life. I was simply just, we got a passion for marriage, passion for relationships. Hey, we've done it God's way. Let's inspire other people. There was no strategic plan. There was not a whole lot of preparation. Nothing. It's just, let's just do it and see what happens. And man, I would say we stumbled into purpose. We really did. We stumbled into purpose. And so once we launched marriedandyoung.com, that's when things really just kind of started to, accelerate with the blog, because people started going to it. We're getting 30, 40,000 visitors. I had a business coach or mentor who kind of pulled me aside, who was like, Jamal, is Married and Young yours? I'm like, yeah, that's something me and my wife just launched. She's like, okay. What are you doing with this? I'm like, we just started a blog. I don't really know. It's just like a marriage blog. We're helping couples. He's like, you're getting 40, 50,000 page views on this thing a month? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, you could be rich. And I'm like, okay. How do you get rich from blogging? And that was the first time that someone told me or even brought me into the world of what today we call digital marketing. I don't come from that background. I didn't go to a formal college. I've never sat in one business class. I've never sat in one marketing class. I went to Bible college, where all I learned about was prayer, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges. I learned the books of the Bible. I learned homiletics. I learned how to do funerals and do weddings. I didn't learn marketing. I didn't learn business. I didn't learn economics. I didn't learn budgeting. I didn't learn any of the things that you need to learn to run a business. So when I tell you that I am the most unlikely person to be doing what I'm doing, it's 100% true. But at the same time, I believe I'm an example of what can be done when you put your mind to something and you give it your all. And I would even use this word, when you become obsessed. I saw the opportunity, which that is what an entrepreneur is. So it's pretty crazy how this has kind of happened. And for us, I would say it's been just a series of events. It's not one clear path. When I tell you the entrepreneurial journey is not this, it's definitely when I tell you, I don't think people understand how much. And that's my goal for this channel. That's my goal for this. I am convicted that I've gone this long and have done this much within the last 7 years, and I don't have this stuff documented. And for me, it's no more. The Lord has convicted me. Jamal, tell the story. I believe that I am supposed to inspire men and women who are, or may not be believers, but they have something in them that, even if you're not a believer, God has placed in you to do to make this world a better place. And I want to inspire you to go after it. What does it take to be a digital CEO in the 21st century? What does it take to build a business from nothing? I have not taken a loan from one person. I built this business completely being no funds, no money. When I tell you, I walked into this thing completely the underdog, and we've been able to successfully do this. So what does it take to do it? So that's been the journey. Once we, started the blog turned into me starting to devour everything I could on marketing, everything I could on internet, everything I could on digital businesses. And it wasn't easy, man. But I gave myself to it, and while also continuing to work and also continuing to be a pastor, I wasn't behind the scenes, really giving myself fully to this world, because I just believed that there was a great opportunity in it. So within the last 7 years, we have gone from being a completely broke and couple, to building this business. We have multiple brands that we manage, that we've created within the last 2 to 3 years. Started off with One University. That brand was helping singles to get married. Then it turned into us working with other experts, creating brands that we are able to serve other niches. And this has now turned into what I would call now a legit e-learning company, where we create courses and programs to help people to transform their life, and to, most importantly, the thing that I would say is helping people to accomplish their life goals. That's the big aim here. We want to help people to have a better life, and that's something that I'm passionate about, and I believe it comes through personal growth, personal development. And that's what this really is all about. As you are watching me and you're in this thing, and you're going to be journeying with me, I'm in this thing to discover more about me. And that's what I'm even seeing from a lot of people who create content. Yeah, you have content experts, then you have content creators, and then you have content sharers, right? And I think a mixture of those worlds is what I'm aiming for, because I don't know exactly what every week my episodes are going to be about. I'm just going to bring you in behind the scenes so you could be inspired that this thing is not as hard as it looks, but at the same time, it is hard. And so you can be inspired to not quit, to not give up, because I could have quit so many times, but I didn't. So this is what it is. So today I am going in to make a deposit. A little bit of money we got to drop into the bank. What's crazy about this check is this thing's been sitting in I've had to deposit this check. That shows you that we're at a whole nother season when you can be sitting on a $44,000 check and not have the pressure to go put it in the bank. This thing's been sitting in my car for a while. So we're about to make a deposit at the bank. Just got off a meeting with our CFO. My team right now, you maybe have seen some of this, was just having a break room. So guys, I'm just going to bring you in to what it takes to run a business, to run a life, and to, most importantly, do it all where you don't lose yourself and you don't lose God. So for all my Christian entrepreneurs that are going to be watching this, this is it, man. This is the life.